My child, today, as I look upon the world, I feel a deep sense of suffering. The conflict between Israel and Hamas weighs heavily on my heart. The bloodshed, the pain, and the loss of innocent lives distress me. I long for peace to prevail in this troubled region, for harmony to replace hostility, and for prosperity to flourish among all my children. In my infinite love and wisdom, I come to you with a message. I implore both sides, Israel and Hamas, to set aside your differences, your grievances, and your animosities. Bring all the problems that divide you to the table of negotiation. Engage in dialogue, not with closed minds, but with open hearts and a genuine desire to understand one another. I want you to comprehend the profound truth that every life is precious to me. Each soul, regardless of nationality, ethnicity, or belief, holds a divine spark that deserves respect and compassion. The divisions that separate you are human constructs, born out of fear, mistrust, and a long history of pain. But I call upon you to transcend these limitations, to rise above the animosity, and to see the shared humanity that unites you. I yearn for you to recognize that violence begets more violence, and the cycle of suffering can only be broken through peaceful means. I do not wish to exert my power to pressure either side, for true change must come from within your hearts. It is through your own willingness to listen, to understand, and to seek common ground that genuine transformation can occur. Remember, my child, that peace is not the absence of conflict, but the presence of understanding, respect, and cooperation. As you negotiate, do so with a spirit of empathy and a commitment to finding a just resolution. Let compassion guide your words and actions, and let the pursuit of peace be your shared mission. I see the potential for a brighter future, where the children of Israel and Gaza can grow up in safety, where families can thrive, and where prosperity can flourish. But this future can only be realized if you lay down your arms, if you choose the path of reconciliation over the path of revenge. My child, I am here, watching over you, and ready to offer my guidance and support. Pray to me, seek my wisdom, and let love be the guiding force in your negotiations. I am with you, urging you towards a future where peace reigns. May my message resonate within your hearts, and may you find the courage to heed my call. Embrace the path of peace, my child, for it is the path that leads to the fulfillment of my divine plan. Are you curious to learn more about the negotiations that took place at the historic Palace of Versailles? How did the Allied powers navigate the complexities of power dynamics and differing national interests? What were the motivations behind the territorial adjustments, reparations, and disarmament measures imposed on Germany? And what were the long-term consequences of the Treaty of Versailles, both in terms of political unrest and the lead-up to World War II? Here are a few notable examples from history where peace was achieved through negotiation. 1. The Treaty of Versailles, 1919. Following World War I, the Treaty of Versailles was negotiated among the Allied powers and Germany. While the treaty had its flaws and contributed to future tensions, it marked an important step toward peace by formally ending the war. The negotiations aimed to establish terms for a lasting peace, including territorial adjustments, disarmament measures, and the creation of the League of Nations. 2. The Camp David Accords of 1978. In a historic event, Israeli Prime Minister Menachem Begin and Egyptian President Anwar Sadat, under the mediation of U.S. President Jimmy Carter, engaged in negotiations at Camp David. These talks led to the signing of the Egypt-Israel Peace Treaty in 1979, which ended decades of hostilities and established diplomatic relations between the two nations. The Camp David Accords were instrumental in achieving peace between Israel and Egypt. 3. The Good Friday Agreement, 1998. The Good Friday Agreement, or the Belfast Agreement, brought an end to the troubles in Northern Ireland, a period of conflict between nationalist and unionist factions. Negotiated with the involvement of the United Kingdom, Irish and Northern Irish political parties, and other stakeholders, the agreement established power-sharing institutions, addressed issues of governance and human rights, and paved the way for reconciliation and a more peaceful society. 4. The Comprehensive Peace Agreement, 2005. The comprehensive peace agreement, negotiated in Naivasha, Kenya, brought an end to the Second Sudanese Civil War that lasted for over 2 decades. The agreement was reached between the government of Sudan and the Sudan People's Liberation Movement Army. It led to the establishment of a power-sharing government, the recognition of South Sudan's right to self-determination, and ultimately the independence of South Sudan in 2011. 5. The Colombian Peace Agreement, 2016. After years of conflict, the Colombian government and the Revolutionary Armed Forces of Colombia, FARC, engaged in negotiations that resulted in the signing of a peace agreement in 2016. The agreement aimed to address issues of land reform, political participation, drug trafficking, and transitional justice. While the process faced challenges, it marked a significant step towards ending the decades-long armed conflict in Colombia. The negotiations that led to the Treaty of Versailles took place in 1919 following the end of World War I. The primary participants in the negotiations were the victorious Allied powers, represented by the Big 4. Woodrow Wilson of the United States, David Lloyd George of Britain, Georges Clemenceau of France, and Vittorio Orlando of Italy. The primary focus of the negotiations was to establish terms for peace and to address the consequences of the war. The negotiations were held at the Palace of Versailles, near Paris, France. The process was complex and involved extensive discussions and compromises among the participating nations. However, it's important to note that not all nations directly affected by the war were represented at the negotiating table, which would later contribute to some of the treaty's shortcomings. The key provisions of the Treaty of Versailles included: 1. Territorial adjustments. The treaty redrew the map of Europe, with significant territorial changes. Germany lost substantial territories, including Alsace-Lorraine to France and parts of its eastern territories to Poland. The treaty also established new nations such as Czechoslovakia and Yugoslavia and granted independence to certain regions within the former Austro-Hungarian Empire. 2. Reparations. Germany was held responsible for the war and required to pay reparations to the Allied powers as compensation for war damages. The exact amount was not specified in the treaty, but was later determined by subsequent agreements. These reparation payments had a significant impact on Germany's economy and would become a source of ongoing tension. 3. Disarmament. Germany was subject to strict disarmament measures, including limitations on its military forces, the prohibition of certain weapons, and the demilitarization of the Rhineland. These measures aimed to prevent Germany from rebuilding its military capabilities. 4. War Guilt Clause. The treaty included Article 231, often referred to as the War Guilt Clause, which placed the sole blame for the war on Germany and its allies. This provision had significant political and psychological implications for Germany and contributed to feelings of humiliation and resentment. It's worth noting that the negotiations at Versailles were marked by complex power dynamics, differing national interests, and a balance between punishment and the desire to maintain stability. The terms of the treaty, particularly the harshness of the reparations and territorial adjustments, would later become sources of discontent and contribute to political unrest in Germany, ultimately playing a role in the lead-up to World War II. While the Treaty of Versailles aimed to establish lasting peace, it is often criticized for its punitive nature and the subsequent negative consequences it had on Germany. The negotiations and resulting treaty highlight the challenges of crafting a balanced and equitable agreement among nations with varying interests and perspectives. Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed this video, please give it a thumbs up, leave a comment sharing your thoughts, and don't forget to subscribe to our channel for more inspiring content like this. Your support means the world to us.